Hello and a very warm welcome to ET Studios powered by DigiCert. Now, digital trust is the invisible engine of modern business. As AI reshapes industries and quantum computing looms closer, the question isn't whether disruption is coming. It's whether we are prepared to it or not. To unpack how post quantum cryptography and AI collide at this crossroads, we have with us Anant Deshpande, Regional Vice President for India and ASEAN at DigiCert. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Himanshi.
All right, it's an honor. And let's start simple, sir. When we talk about digital trust, right? When you say that the future of businesses run on digital trust, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, it's a good question, and thank you for asking that question. I'll just add in a little, footnote to that, saying it's the present and the future of business runs on digital trust, right? See, Himanshi, digital trust means different things to different people. So let's start by defining or baselining what digital trust actually is. So I would say that digital trust is really the foundation of the connected world. Everything in this digital age, it's hyper connected. And I would say digital trust is the one single glue that binds all of this together: machines, applications, software, devices, everything, right? So when this touches everything, a good place to start when you're doing, say, your next IT implementation or security implementation, a good place to start will be digital trust. Let me expand further. Let's say you're traveling on a plane, as many of us did, into Goa. What gives you the confidence that the avionics system on that plane is secure? When you do a WhatsApp message, like you do on your phone, right? What gives you the confidence that that message is end to end encrypted, right? WhatsApp says, by the way, even WhatsApp can't read your messages. When you do a UPI transaction, what gives you the confidence that that transaction is secure? Or when you go to a hospital and do an MRI, what gives you the confidence that the software on that MRI machine is not tampered with? So, digital trust is the foundational infrastructure that makes all of this happen. And by the way, DigiCert is the global leader in digital trust.
Yeah. Let's talk about quantum and how our organizations in India and in ASEAN countries are like, where are they in the journey of post quantum readiness? Because when we talk about quantum, uh, it still sounds futuristic, right? But the cryptographic risks, they are actually creeping in faster. So where are we? Like I asked you earlier, where are we in the journey? Like the Indian organizations and also the ASEAN organizations when we talk about the post quantum readiness?
No, I think it's a great question. And PQC or post quantum is coming at us faster than we know it.
Yeah,
It is
absolutely.
far from futuristic. It's probably happening in this decade, by the way. Okay. And there have been significant advances that have been happening in the field of quantum, right? And by the way, quantum is great because it has the potential to solve some very complex business problems because of the scale at which quantum computers operate. Classical computers operate bits and bytes. Quantum computers run parallelly on qubits. There's a big difference. So, if you were to break the current cryptographic algorithms, a classical computer would take probably a billion plus years. A quantum computer can do it probably less than 5 minutes, right? Or even lesser, right? So the implication really of that is the trust fabric as we know it today, right? Right from software, emails, identities, documents, anything that is got signed digitally could potentially be compromised when a quantum computer does come in, right? So, and to answer your question in terms of what organizations and where we are, I think every organization, every country is their own direction around quantum. India is no exception. I think there's a lot of work happening, especially on the government front. The National Quantum Mission, which has been set up, there's some, I would say, pioneering work that is happening around that, and we've seen some examples of that recently, as well as even the corporate world, or I would say the good guys, is actually shaping up towards getting quantum ready.
All right. When we talk about the digital trust, there are perhaps a lot of keywords that come to our mind. And AI, we cannot do away with AI as well. But when we talk about AI, it's a double edged sword, right? As much as it's accelerating innovation, it's also bringing in a lot of threats. So, from that perspective, like from your vantage point, how does AI disrupt the trust frameworks? Like, are we talking about deepfakes or is there anything else? Please explain us.
Yeah, all of this, by the way.
Yeah.
And by the way, I mean, it's not gloom and doom, by the way, right? I mean, whether you talk about quantum and in this case AI, it has some pretty great applications, right? I mean, we cannot do without AI. I don't think there's anybody who's going to say that we don't have an AI strategy in place, right? Generative AI, we're talking about interactive AI that is coming in the future. So, it's really great. All the way from homework till agentic AI and everything in between, AI is actually powering the next generation of the workspace, right? But I think what organizations need to be cognizant about the fact is deepfakes. That's one part of it. And as you rightly said, how do you distinguish whether it is real or whether it is not real? Uh, if you talk about software as an example, AI is there in the software supply chain today. AI is actually writing code into repositories, into open source. So how do you protect against that? AI agents are going to be everywhere within organizations. How do you sort of inventorize those AI agents? How do you actually sign LLM models within your organization? And around deepfakes, by the way, it's interesting because I think where the industry is moving towards, and this is the good part of it, where the industry is actually moving forward is towards working on models, right? If you will, to figure out what is real and what is fake. A good example is what we call the C2PA. It's basically called the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authentication, which is sort of an industry body and a body of academicians, governments, which talks about or which is working on standards where you can authenticate content to figure out whether it is real or not. And that happens by sort of injecting trust into every part of where content is modified so that when you look at an image, you have sort of a marker that tells you that how was this image taken, where was it modified, what tools were used to modify this, how was it distributed. So in short, long answer to your short question is that you probably will have a situation in the future where you will be able to look at an image and distinguish whether it is real or not. You may not be able to say whether it's true or false, but you will be potentially be able to armed with the information to say whether it is a fake or not a fake.
Let's like, we spoke about the quantum, we spoke about AI.
Yeah.
Let's come to the crux. What happens when PQC meets AI? I mean, is there an arms race where AI is sort of accelerating all the cryptographic threats and PQC becomes non-negotiable? How does that happen?
Yeah, you caught me off guard, by the way. All right. Yeah, but I think it's a great question. See, if I just take a step back in time and you looked at some of the great or transformational or disruptive technologies that have transformed IT, cloud, social, mobile, they all happened in waves. Right? This is probably the first time, at least I know of in IT, that two of these great waves are coming together, interacting with or intersecting with each other, AI and quantum. Right? And the interplay of that is creating many, many opportunities, by the way, as well as many, many challenges. Right? Let me give you an example, and I'll use a software development as an example. Today, organizations are using AI to modernize software, right? And that's great because AI has the ability to pick out millions and millions and millions of lines of code and modernize that and completely transform them into a new modern language. But what happens when PQC comes in? When you have PQC that comes in, you potentially have a situation that all of that got done by AI could get undone by PQC because it could break into all of those codes and change the code right at the source itself. So it's food for thought.
As you're moving towards the end of this conversation, most organizations, they actually struggle with turning disruption talk into a clear roadmap, right? So when we talk about, from your perspective, like what's that first practical step, or what are those steps perhaps that they should take today to sort of future proof their digital trust strategy? Now that we have spoken about everything, what would be those two practical steps from your side?
Yeah, sure. I think doing the basics right is very critical. And if you look at it from whether it's AI, quantum, or for that matter, many of the security trends or disruptions that are coming our way, I think there should be some foundational elements in place. I think it all starts firstly with visibility. Yeah, you need to have complete visibility of your entire cryptographic estate within your organization, right? Because you cannot manage or secure what you cannot see. So it all starts from there because once you have visibility, then you can kind of take a call whether, okay, does this need to be quantum ready? Can I do this later? And this is obviously based on business policy. It has to be scalable, no doubt about it, right? Because you're living in the elastic age, it has to be scalable. And very importantly, it needs to be consistent.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you cannot have a different way to manage quantum, a different way to manage AI. You need a different way to manage, cloud, down cloud, physical, virtual. It has to be consistent and it has to be integrated, right? Because inconsistency is not the friend of security, right? Complexity is not the friend of security. And automation. Automation is table stakes, right? Anything that can get automated has to be automated. I think in conclusion, what I could say is your security is like a fabric. It's a fabric item. And the decisions that organizations take around security today are going to profoundly impact not just organizations, technology outcomes, but even business outcomes. And it's very difficult to sort of rip that out later on because you risk, tearing up that entire fabric. So I think that would be my perspective.
Absolutely. And it all ties up to the fact that when we talk about digital trust, it isn't only about or it doesn't only act as a shield to disruption, right? Perhaps it's the bridge to the future of businesses,
I would agree with
right?
you. Absolutely. Totally agree with you. In fact, it's the one single glue that binds everything together,
Everything
right? Yeah.
together. Right.
Absolutely.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much, sir, for being a part of this conversation and really explaining all those difficult terms to us in detail. Thank you for that context. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation, and to our viewers. Stay tuned for many, many more such interesting and insightful conversations only at ET Studios.